Hi, this is Stephen Brower from Raton Valley Community College. This is for Computer Literacy Summer 2017, and this is meant to be an intro to the Access 17A chapter that we're going to be doing this week. If I ruled the world, I would actually do things a little bit differently, where I wouldn't actually have us create a database. I would actually have us just use a database, because more likely than not, you're going to be using databases, not creating databases later in life, as it were. Me being a developer, that's a little bit different from me. But unfortunately, it is what it is. So one of the things we're going to do in 17A is we're going to create a database and get some data into it. Now, just as sort of a reminder, when we started Word, we would pick a blank document and we actually could start typing. And we're dealing in a blank document. It's not until later that we actually go and save what we're typing into a file. Same thing for Excel. We would start with a blank workbook and we would start typing in data. So we'd be dealing with a blank one, and then when we're ready to save for the first time, we would then go and save. A different thing about Access is that when we want to go and create a database, we actually have to pick where and what. The location of where the database is going to be and what it is that we want to call the database. So it's something that we didn't have to do in Word and Excel, and part of it's because architecturally behind the scenes Access is different, so it does need to actually have a database created. Now I'm going to well, I'll try my best. Actually, let me hit pause. So I've picked the location. I'm putting this into my practice folder, and I named it the way that they want it named for 17A, and I'll hit OK. And what this will do, well, actually, over here, and now I click Create, and then what this will do is behind the scenes, it has now created this file. So if I were to take a peek into the practice folder, so then here's the file I just created. Of course, how would you know it is? But if you look at the time, it's 7:26, 8:40 p.m. That's the file that just got created. And what later versions of Access have done is, on the creation of the blank database, they actually give us a blank table, and it's where we can go in and actually start putting columns and data into the table and then save it. In older versions of Access, we were just in the database, and then we had to go out of our way to create the table for the first time. So the table that I'm working on right here isn't yet saved. We will save that later, but we do have to give sort of column names for for the columns. So first thing we can do is we pick the type that we want for the column, and many of the columns we're going to do as short text, and then we go and we put what we want as the name of the column. By the way, the instructions in the book for creating the database is to do your last name first, and so I'm creating there as you know, Homer Simpson. For the table we're creating, this is going to be the student table, and we're going to have the student's last name. So the last name is the actual name that we're going to give to the column, because that is what we're naming the column. Now I may deviate a little bit from the book because I'm just kind of typing quickly here, but we pick the short text, we type the name, hit enter, it takes us to the next field. Now if you notice, if I just hit T, it'll do the short text, and then I can do the name of the next field. So let's do the first name, and I hit enter, and now I'm in the next field. Let me pause for a second. Okay, so I quickly entered in all the fields except the last one. So all of these fields here are going to be short text. This last field, we're actually going to go and pick currency for this one. Now, fields can be changed in terms of the data types after the fact. So if you accidentally do create something with the wrong data type, then you can go back and pick the correct one later. The idea in the data type, like in Excel, we can type anything into a cell in Excel, and this is just the default out of the box. Without making any changes to Excel, we can type anything we want into a cell. In databases, since a database is an organized collection of data, one of the organizations we want is we want to have the right stuff in the fields that we have. So for example, if we have something like a zip code, we want it to only be numbers. If we have something that's going to be like amount owed, we want it in dollars and cents and formatted that way. And so this way you can't enter text into something that would be a currency field. So there's a number of data types, but for this lab 17A, we're just going to be using short text except for the last one, which is going to be currency. So the amount owed is going to be a currency field. And the nice thing is, as soon as we then go and actually pick that this is the currency, it will format that column automatically. Now I'm going slightly out of order, so I'm going to meaning out of order with the book. I'm going to save this table before I forget. So we'll do the Simpson Homer 17A student. I'm sorry, it is going to be the last name, first name, 17A students. The save that I just did there was saving the layout of the table. What I mean by the layout, it's the names of the fields, the data types of the fields, of which amount owed was short text, and amount owed was currency, and all the rest were short text. In terms of after the fact, so this is what's called the data sheet view now that this thing is saved. And over here, and there's multiple places where we can do this, but since we're in this mode here under the table tools, under the view here, we actually can pick the design view, and we then get into the place where we can change the column names and then the types. So let's say you accidentally, for amount owed, forgot to make a currency, you could come in here and then change it from the short text to the currency. But one of the things that they're going to have us do is, now an auto number field is one that will generate a unique number every time a row is being added to a table. But if we think of things like books have ISBN numbers, and so if we're creating a table of books, we don't want to have the book numbers as just being 1, 2, 3. We'll use the unique ISBN number. Now, actually, there's another organization that handles the assignment of those, but we would use that as the key for the table. The key uniquely identifies the rows in the table. For something like a student number, now for this fictitious database that we're doing, we actually don't know where the student numbers come from. But the idea is that the student number is being created elsewhere, and then it's just being entered into this database here. So here we are going to be using a short text for the field, and we're making this student ID. I think we're making it student ID. If I'm slightly deviating from the book, I apologize, but it's just more the idea. Hang on a second. One other thing they're having us do in this design view mode is we're going to remove, so I'm highlighting here this middle initial, we're removing the column, and when we remove a column, the data that's in the column will be removed. Now, in the demo I'm doing right here, I haven't put any data in yet, but it's something to be mindful of. If you remove a column, then all the data in the column is gone. Let me click over here, make sure I'm in the state fields. If we notice down here for the field size, well, if we're going to use the 2-character postal code that the post office has, then I can put here the field size as being the 2, and I'll just put here a little note that this is going to be the 2-character or the 2-car postal abbreviation for state. I believe we're also, for the student ID, we're making that 7. We're making that 7. For the faculty advisor ID, we're making this 8. And there's a couple other descriptions that are going to go in these other fields, and I just didn't put those in. Now, the changes that I just made, removing the middle ID, the middle name, the renaming the student, the ID as student ID, the setting it as the length of 7, setting the state as the length of 2, setting the faculty advisor ID as the length of 8. Those changes aren't yet saved to the database. So hitting save here will now save those changes, so they're now they're locked in. If I click back over here, well, the top part right here, I'm just going to bring in the drop-down list. This is the datasheet view, and in the datasheet view is where we can enter in the data. Now, I'm deviating from the book in terms of the fields, so let me just go and get some characters in here. I mean, well, okay, so I entered the data up to this point. Now, if you notice on the far left-hand side, there is a sort of a pencil. That means this row that I'm working on right now has not been saved yet to the database. From where my blinking cursor is right now, over here in amount owed, if I hit tab, which will take me to the next the next row, it will save this record to the database. If I hit escape, the entire record is going to get removed. So you have to be very careful to not hit escape while you're entering in data into the table. And actually, it's for any doubting Thomases. I'm going to hit escape. Make a lawyer out of me. I'll hit escape. Boom. Okay, sorry. It's, okay, well, I had to do it twice, but it's gone. So I paused and restarted the video. I re-entered the data up to this point. Now I'll hit the tab, and we notice that little pencil is gone, and that row has now been saved to the database. And for any doubting Thomases, if I completely close this database down, well, I had this other one open that I was working on, and if I reopen the database, I'll enable the content, I'll go back into the table I was working on, there is the Wayland Smithers. It was once I lost focus on the row, then that row was added. So for data entry, you don't have to save your changes to the database. That when you lose focus on a row, that entire row then is saved to the database. If you're doing layout changes, so if we're changing the name of a column or changing the data type of a column or the width of a column, those layout changes we have to save to the database. We're also going to look at in Chapter 17 things like creating queries and reports. Those will get saved as well. Alexa, stop. Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to show something. I was about to open another database that's completed, and when I went over here to File Explorer, if you notice there's an LACCDB file. That L file is a lock file. It's not the actual database itself. Since databases are usually shared, it's a way that multiple people, like if you put it on a server, it's the way that multiple people can get access to the file. So something just to be mindful of, if you do see an LACCDB, it's letting you know that the database is open. And when you're submitting the lab to me, make sure you're submitting the ACCDB, not the LACCDB. This took longer than I thought. This is going to be the end of part 1. In part 2, I'm going to pick up with some other things that are being done in terms of the Access 17A.